Let's try again. Yes, that was done on purpose. We are live, locked and loaded, coming to you right here, right now, from the ghetto of the Area 51 bunker. My friends, for the next 90 minutes, we are going to be talking about UFOs, aliens, Nephilim, and Peruvian face peelers. I can almost guarantee that there is no other broadcast going down like this right here, right now on Facebook or YouTube. I want to greet you, my friends, on both platforms tonight. This is not a private webinar like our last one. This one is very public, and that means that it's shareable. So do me a big favor. I want you to just be bold as the wild, supernatural weirdo that I know that you are. And I want you just to be bold and share this so that all your friends, all your family, all your fake Facebook friends, right? The people where you're like, they look interesting, but I have no idea who they are. Let them know right now that you are a wild supernaturalist, okay, by hitting the share button. And I hope that from this broadcast that we are not going to be propagating fear and speculation. No, we are going to be propagating the good news of Jesus Christ. And I know that some of you be tripping saying, whoa, wait, what? This dude's a Christian? This dude, who is this dude? This is the part of the broadcast where I tell you who this dude is. Hi, my name is Darren Stott. I am a pastor, author, and founder of an international equipping school that we call Portals University. Portals University. Yes. This is a 7-month school where we are engaging busy people right on their cell phones, okay, helping them upgrade their ordinary lives into a supernatural adventure with Jesus. You say, well, how do you do that? We help them be awakened to their authority and, yes, the portals of heavenly opportunity that are opening within their lives. Now, some people say, do you got scripture verses for this? Yes. And we spent 90 minutes on that just a couple of weeks ago, just going through all the scriptures. With that being said, let me just say this right off the bat. This is just not a good intro video. Tonight is just not going to be the shallow end of the pool. And if I could just be honest with you, this is not going to be me making friends and influencing people. This is not going to be a Dale Carnegie night, how to make friends and influencing people. So listen, I'm not going to be on here trying to get you to like me, okay? In fact, right off the bat, a lot of you are going to be offended by what you are hearing tonight, okay? When I addressed some of this content in one of our services a year and a half ago, which, by the way, when we covered this content, this stuff was really not even in the mainstream news yet. And yet, as we began to address it, I was surprised to see believers actually getting up and walking out because they did not appreciate my take on aliens, and they had almost a worldview similar to that of the Vatican, where they believe that aliens are biological entities and that we should start training and equipping schools so that we can send missionaries out into the cosmos equipped to begin making converts of Martians. And for some of you, you're like, yeah, that is what we should be doing. And for some of you, you're thinking, that is the most absurd thing I think I have ever heard. And so, listen, there's going to be a wide variety of people on this broadcast tonight, okay? And right off the bat, If you are watching this and you're like, I don't think I agree with you, Darren, that is okay. All right. You don't have to agree with everything I say. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I don't know. And I'll be putting out different theories tonight. There's going to be some other things where I'm quite dogmatic and where there are some lines that are drawn in the sand. And speaking of lines drawn in the sand, we are going to begin tonight's broadcast talking about the wild stuff that is taking place in Peru. Okay. And so we don't have a lot of time. In fact, we don't hardly have any time considering the subject matter that we're going to be talking through. I have about 100 pages of notes. I'm not presumptuous enough to think that I'm going to get through all of it. Tonight is not the night where I download everything on my computer and in my brain and in my spirit into you. This tonight is simply an open portal night. This is the beginning of the rabbit hole. For some of you, this will be the end of the rabbit hole and I'll never see you again, all right? That's okay. But for others of you, this is going to be the beginning of a supernatural adventure where you're going to begin to step into some supernatural realities that are going to radically affect your daily life and some of the dreams and desires that God has had in his heart for you. Okay, so when it's all said and done, tonight's broadcast does not exist to glorify the demonic, right? Or to get you to have extra honor towards darkness and hybrid beings. That tonight's broadcast is to see you awakened to who Jesus the Christ is and who you are in him. Okay. And so we will be talking about portals. We will be talking about the portal of portals, the gateway. Okay. There are stargates. There are access points. We got into that on our last webinar when we were talking about what pyramids are. If you missed that one, pyramids are synthetic mountains, and it takes you all the way back to Eden and the mountain of God and man's attempt to get back to Eden using counterfeit gateways and synthetic mountains, which is why you can pretty much go anywhere on earth and find pyramids, which are essentially man's attempt to build stairways to heaven, taking you all the way back to Babel, one of the first ziggurats that we see there, one of the first man-made attempts to get back, to break into Eden. Okay, and so we got into that in our last webinar. We are going to be getting into some new content tonight. So again, we're about to dive into this. I just want to make sure that you take a quick second to share this broadcast. If you're on YouTube, please take this and share it. That would be absolutely amazing. Also, because this is on Facebook and YouTube, people are going to be scrolling and they're going to find this and they're going to watch it for a couple minutes and then they're going to leave. This is going to be like an open house of the paranormal and supernatural. People are going to be coming and going. And because of that, there's going to be a few points where I actually bring a subject matter to a close and then we'll open up a new subject matter. So even though this is like one broadcast tonight, this is actually more like 4 broadcasts. And if for some reason people join us in the middle, I will be encouraging them to watch the replay. And if for some reason you can't watch this entire broadcast tonight, please come back and watch it again. We will not be deleting this. So this will remain on YouTube and Facebook for quite some time to come, possibly forever. And so this will be available. Now, some wild stuff is taking place on the earth. Some wild stuff is taking place very close to you and I. For decades, the prophets were warning us that such a time as this would come. Even in the Word of God, Jesus warns us that before his return, the earth would resemble that of the days of Noah. Now, if we look at the days of Noah, we see a very interesting time and place on the earth where the earth is in transition. that if you go back to Genesis 1 and 2 and you see Eden, you actually see a place of convergence and overlap. It's a place where you have the heavens and the earth in union together. You have the divine council of heaven located in this place of convergence. You have the luminescent one, known as Lucifer, the bronze one, the serpentine being, which was actually a seraph or the throne room guardian. Okay, and where is he located? Ezekiel would say in Eden. And where was Eden? On the earth. Point being is that earth was originally, Eden on the earth was originally a place of convergence between the celestial and the terrestrial. And we see this dynamic continue to take place all the way through the days of Noah. It would not have been weird for there to have been supernatural beings, integrated and fused in with the natural realms of the earth. In fact, that dualistic way of thinking, of separating the realm of the spirit and the natural, wouldn't have been within the minds of the ancients. The ancients did not have a concept or a grid of separation between the celestial and the terrestrial as we do today, which is why by the time that you come to Genesis chapter 6, you actually are seeing fallen angels intermarrying with humans and creating a hybrid race. You say hybrid race, what are you talking about? We're actually talking about a race of beings that are part celestial and terrestrial, part angelic and part human. And these would be known as the heroes of old. These were the giants. These were the Nephilim. And what we actually begin to see is an eradication of the pure DNA that God had created on the earth through Adam and Eve, to the point where perhaps humanity could have faced extinction if it hadn't have been for God himself intervening into this demonic anti-life trajectory that the earth was on. We have to see that when God flooded the earth and saved a righteous man whom he found, who was Noah and his family, that this act of God flooding the earth, this was not just a willy-nilly act of punishment because humans were drinking too much, right? And going to places on the World Wide Web that they shouldn't be going. What we actually see here is the human race being threatened, being eradicated. And we actually see in the days of Noah a spirit on the earth that exists then that also exists now. It is anti-life. It is anti-human. It is anti-Yahweh. It is anti the dream of God that the kingdom of Yahweh would come, that his will would be done on the earth as it is in heaven. Which brings us to today, a battle that is taking place in the heavenlies and a battle that is taking place on the earth. It is not a battle for soil or land. It is a battle for DNA. That what we're going to be talking about tonight is very, very personal because it not only involves you, but it involves your children. And all of a sudden, as we begin to have this conversation tonight, you'll begin to see a thread that begins to tie everything together, from a global pandemic to a trans agenda to into the integration of meta and data into the anatomy and biology of humanity. This celebration of the future of humanity being literal cyborgs, and the old school idea of what the mark of the beast would be and what the Antichrist would be, looming underneath this shadow of an era of AI where even the creators are saying, whoops, I think we've made a mistake. It's too late. Pandora's box is open. When machines are out learning us, we are having conversations with people that do not actually exist, saying things like, hey, Siri, and is that Siri or Siri? Oh, look it. And my phone just turned on. Why? Because my phone is listening. My phone is, hey, Alexa. Hey, we have all of these robots in the midst of us, and they are listening. And if you call them by name, they wake up. Just like my phone woke up. It is time for us to wake up, because this battle, my friends, is a battle for our DNA. It is a battle for our future. It is a battle for our sons and daughters. Now, yes, we are going to be talking about principalities, powers, crazy, creepy things in the second heaven. Yeah. But we're also going to be talking about government cover-ups. Okay. We're also going to be talking about some of the trends that we are seeing. And honestly, we're going to be treading on some thin red lines that are hard to discern, because there are some things that we don't quite know what they are, where it could go either way. It could be celestial, it could be terrestrial, it could be part of an agenda such as the Project Bluebeam theory that is becoming radically popular right now. And so we will get into that. And we will cover as much as we can between now and 8:30 here on the Pacific coast. So we are going to begin right now with a very interesting place, okay, on the earth known as Peru. Now, Peru has a history of alien integration and celebration. In fact, it has a history of spiritism and cultism that draws many people to Peru to go there and to meditate, to visit their alien museums. You'll even remember back in 2018 when the flop Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skulls came out. There was a part of that movie that was taking place in Peru, okay, where they were talking about this legend of the Crystal Skulls being a possession for mystical and healing powers, okay, and its fusion with alien theology and methodology, going back to a mecca of extraterrestrial activity in Peru. Now, Peru is in the headlines right now, coincidentally popping just about 2 weeks after the alien trials in Congress. And all of this is dropping right here, like right now. We're talking about stuff that's been hitting the headlines just in the last 2 weeks. And what's fascinating about Peru is that it's one of those places where there's a history of unexplainable phenomenon that goes back thousands and thousands of years, even going back to the formation of the Nazca lines, okay? And this question of what are these lines in the soil there? What are these formations? What are these patterns? How did a ancient primitive people, okay, go into an area that was not easily accessed, even to this day where we have all kinds of off-road vehicles and ways of transportation? You go out into the desert, into the middle of nowhere, and imagine these ancients that did not have access to drones, creating miles upon miles of perfectly straight lines, formations that line up with the constellations, artwork, okay, beings that look alien-like, even creatures like a monkey, creations that look like a deer. I saw one particular formation that had been created, and again, I'm assuming that these have been made by the ancients, but there is a popular embracing of this theory that these formations were made by extraterrestrials, these made by aliens. Let's see what I have here. If I can show you some of these. Let's see, what do we got here? So this is what it looks like from a bird's eye view, right? So you get way, way, way up high in the sky, and you can see how perfect, okay, how perfect this was done. Now imagine being actually on the earth, right? And not having this perspective and having to, I mean, it's absolutely is, and this, of course, is a spider. Look at this one, a hummingbird. Look at the detail. And now keep in mind, this thing is miles long. And I said miles. And what? And who do we have here? Fascinating. Let's see. Let's take another look. Pretty wild. So all this taking place in Peru, and Peru right now is in the headlines because of this village. It's apparently quite difficult to get there, quite difficult to access. And I had the name of the village here. I'll find it here in a bit. Indigenous people in Peru claiming they are being targeted at night by mysterious armored extraterrestrials. These beings have been dubbed Los Pelicaros, which means face peelers. The extraterrestrials have been spotted. They've been seen by the locals. In fact, when the articles started hitting the press here about 2 weeks ago, in fact, it was on the day of our last webinar that it was hitting the headlines. People were emailing me. I had no idea what was taking place. And at that point in time, the indigenous people of this particular village said that these beings were invading their village every single night. They're described as having large heads, yellowish eyes. A 15-year-old girl was attacked, and her neck was cut when she resisted, when she fought back. The attack from the being was attempting to cut her neck in order to remove her face. I saw one picture of a body, and the face had actually been removed from the skull. So you have a skull, the spine, and then the body was intact. The complete face and hair was gone. So this 15-year-old was attacked. Her neck was cut. Apparently, she was able to get away. One of the leaders in the community compared the aliens to the Green Goblin from the Spider-Man movie. And according to this leader, two of these beings actually killed his brother. And he said that they killed his brother by using a flash of light that filleted his brother, he said, like a fish. He said that community members began firing their weapons at these two beings. One of them hit the ground. Moments later, that the being that hit the ground got back up, and these beings, they always do the same thing. The villagers describe them as either just disappearing or slowly actually floating away. The odd part about this as well is that when the one being got back up, his brother also apparently, allegedly got back up and then took off with the two beings. They say that these beings are bulletproof. They can protect themselves. And they also claim that these beings have discs on their feet with red lights on their feet. And these beings that they say to be about 7 feet tall. I find this interesting because when you think about it, okay, so a 7 foot tall being sounds like a Nephilim. There were giants in the days of old. Now there's debate regarding how tall the Nephilim were, but from what I've studied, the Nephilim tend to be larger, and some even claim to be very, very large, very, very, very tall. Okay, so 7 feet is not really actually all that tall. Now think about this: if you have something that can hover, and you're going to stand up on something that can hover, okay, and let's say that the average size of the people there is 5.5 feet. And they are up on some sort of hovering board. Well, that would explain a being that is taller. So they say that they're 7 feet tall, but keep in mind, these things are actually hovering up off the ground, which is interesting. Now, I'm going to show you a video that was captured from a family, I believe it is, in Peru, of a UAP or a UFO flying over Peru. And I want you to kind of pay attention to this, because when we're done tonight, we're going to be circling back around talking about UFOs. And I'm going to show you some pictures. And it's actually going to correlate with what you're going to see. What I'm going to put up on the screen here is a video where it will look like a jellyfish, a flying jellyfish made of light, moving up and through the clouds. Now, if you're not familiar with the typical shape of UFOs, now I know that there is the Tic Tac video, and I know that there's been the footage that has been released from Congress, okay? And we're going to talk about that here in a second. So you've got this footage that's been released from Congress of UFOs. The footage that's being released from Congress is inconsistent with the typical UFO sightings that people are catching on their phones and cell phones. Now, I know that because of TikTok and YouTube, there's all kinds of just absurd, it's amazing what people can do with special effects. So the majority of the footage that is hitting TikTok is made up, and it's very popular, a lot of this stuff. However, there are legitimate videos that are being posted by legitimate people, and where you have these unidentified flying objects, these drone-like objects. And what's interesting about them is they are not performing supernaturally to the degree that the famous the famous Tic Tac object performs, the way that they're able to come up and out of the ocean, which is another very interesting fact that I'll point out, is that these ships, these objects, are not coming out of the heavens. When you begin to see the footage coming from the military, these are objects that are actually coming from the sea, actually coming from the water. All right. Don't be distracted by the light in the video that I'm going to show you, by this thing that looks like a jellyfish. I want you to look. See, here's what happens. When you see a video like this, your eyes are going to be drawn to the light. I actually want you to look at the shadow underneath the light. Because think about it for a second. When you're looking up into the night sky, okay, and you have an object, let's say it's not lit, that object is going to appear to be a shadow, or it's going to appear to be black. Now imagine when you see an airplane in the sky, you're not actually seeing the airplane. You're seeing the lights coming off the airplane. Okay? So in order to see what's taking place in this video, don't look at the light. Look just under the light, and you're going to see the top of a triangle that is moving up. And this is going to be consistent with most of the footage that is being spotted by probably true, authentic footage that we are going to see really isn't paranormal and is actually probably linked to a government cover-up versus a supernatural portal that has been opened whereby paranormal beings are accessing this realm. Now, before I lose you, because that's the point right there where people get mad because they think that I'm trying to explain away all of this supernatural paranormal activity as merely military, and I'm not. So I believe in realms and beings and Nephilim. I believe in all of this, and we're going to get into that here in a second when we start talking about aliens. But this is where I begin to draw a line between UFOs and aliens. And so I see two different sources between UFOs and aliens, which is why the government is releasing footage of UFOs, but they are not releasing footage of aliens. And there's a reason for that. These things are coming from two different sources. There's two different explanations. And yep, it's terrestrial, okay? It's celestial, okay? Both. And so let me show you this footage that has just come in recently in the last week, I believe, of the Peru UFO. Here it is.
Sí, es. Un avión, coño.
¡Sara! ¡No, ven a verlo!
Ahí. Un avión, coño. Sí, es de lucecito.
No mames, no es avión, ¿cómo es avión de tamaño? No mames.
Sí, es altísimo, coño.
No, güey, no es avión. No chingues. El avión no tiene luces hacia los lados, coño.
Es por la, ¿cómo se llama?
Debería estar prendiendo azul, blanco, debería estar prendiendo rojo, coño.
Sí tiene color rojo, coño.
Tiene, coño.
Sí tiene, güey. Es un avión, coño.
Es una luz, no es una luz, güey.
Es un avión, coño.
Did you see it? Did you guys see it? Put a 1 in the comments if you saw it. You saw the light, and then you look under the light, and you see. I was going to wait to the end of this broadcast to get into UFOs. I'm going to do it now. It just makes sense. And so what you saw there was footage captured. I think once I was able to point it out, you see it right away. I watched that video several times, and I didn't actually see it. And then I was looking at my notes on aliens and UFOs that I did 2 years ago. And I started looking at the captured military objects that you can look up on the military's website that they say are prototypes and don't actually exist. These are just prototypes. They don't exist, but you can still go onto the military's website and actually see pictures of these things. And so let me do that now. Let me just go down here and just pull up my notes. I was going to do this at the end, but we're just going to get into the UFO stuff right now. And if you're just jumping on, what I'm saying is, yes, there is a supernatural realm. Yes, there are beings, attempted abductions. Okay, we're going to get into that here in just a little bit. We're doing good on time. But when it comes to these craft, and when it comes to the government's willingness to disclose information, we see various craft that has been captured, photos that have been released by the military that say that they have craft that they have been experimenting with, that they are not using. These are just one of which is the TR-3B. This is a craft that the military says does not actually exist, and it uses highly pressured mercury accelerated by nuclear energy. Let me pull up a picture. The TR-3B, and you guys remember just the footage I just showed you, coming out of Peru, of the black triangle. All right, look at this. Does it look something like that? The TR-3B. Here's another photo. And this is what we are seeing a lot of. The footage that we are seeing a lot of typically looks like a triangle. And what we just saw was a black triangle flying through the air with headlights, very bright headlights, and then some sort of drone-like object that was well lit in that flew in from the side. I mean, this is really what we're seeing. We're seeing triangles, and this is the TR-3B. Here is the TR-3A, captured this picture at a military base. Let me tell you about this. It uses highly pressured mercury accelerated by nuclear energy to produce a plasma that creates a field of anti-gravity around the ship. Conventional thrusters located at the tip of the craft allow it to perform in all manner of rapid high-speed maneuvers along all three axes. Interesting, the plasma generated also reduces a radar signature. The plasma generated reduces radar signature significantly and maybe even completely. Okay, removing it from the radar to be captured. So basically, when this thing's flying, it's basically invisible. Okay, and it can remain undetected. This means that this kind of craft, even though, again, the military says it doesn't exist, it can actually go into any country, anywhere it likes, without being detected by any air defense systems or air traffic control. And remember, this doesn't exist. Okay? This thing doesn't exist, even though we have footage coming out in the trials at Congress. It says this is non-human, this was engineering technology that we're not even capable of, okay? And we're not even capable of it, and yet, my friends, here it is. These are not demons.
Sí, es. Un avión, coño.
¡Sara!
Lo que es, cabrón, suéltate ruido.
¡No, es Loki!
Nope, not demons. Paula, good question. Any connection to Area 51? Yes. In fact, I would highly recommend a book on Area 51 written by Annie Jacobson. And I'm sorry, like I said at the beginning here, I've literally got 100 pages of notes, and I wasn't going to cover this till the end of tonight. But because we're reviewing what's taking place in Peru and this question of, are these paranormal, supernatural beings? It's Annie Jacobson. She received a Pulitzer Prize, and her book is called Area 51, An Uncensored History of America's Top Secret Military Base. And in her book, she has people that have gone on record, very high up officials in the military, some of which gave her on the record testimonies that she was not allowed to use until after their death. So Annie Jacobson, she's quite a journalist, and she does a lot of pieces disclosing government cover-ups. And this is what she states, that Area 51 is a massive government cover-up that has everything to do with propaganda and creating narratives. And in fact, I want to show you an interview with Annie Jacobsen where she's talking about Area 51 and UFOs. So here's Annie Jacobsen. Absolutely fascinating stuff here.
And top secret clearances. One of them revealed to me something that was rather shocking, and it was certainly not something I expected. And that was that the supposed myth of Roswell actually does also have a kernel of truth, a very serious thread of truth. And according to this source who I write about in the last 7 pages of my book, it was actually not a flying disc from Mars, but rather was from the Soviet Union and was meant to be a hoax, a la the War of the World, something Stalin himself was familiar with and was rather obsessed with, according to this source, in terms of the ability to kind of make Americans feel panic. And so what my source told me was that he was one of the 5 engineers who worked to reverse engineer this flying disc out at Area 51. And that, of course, has caused much controversy in the press. Even the conspiracy theorists are upset with me. I received a letter from a group of them in England saying, you know, even we don't believe you. So it's obviously a hot-button topic, but more than anything, I stand by the veracity of this source who told me this because he worked out there in the desert for across 3 decades working for the Atomic Energy Commission on many top secret projects, and he was certainly in place and position to work on the project that he said he did.
Annie Jacobsen, they had to close Area 51 for a time as a result of nuclear experiments. Can you explain what happened?
Yes, and I tell that story through the eyes of one of the security guards who worked out there. His name is Richard Mingus. He was a security guard at Area 51 by day, this elite group of just 4 or 5 men at a time that watched over the U-2 spy plane being developed. And by night, he would moonlight on some of the nuclear weapons tests that were happening next door. And one of the most astonishing tests to me was something called Project 57. And that was the idea. The Defense Department and the Atomic Energy Commission in 1957 wanted to know what would happen if one of their bombers carrying a nuclear weapon were to crash on American soil. Would a mushroom cloud explode, or would something else happen? And so they performed this test out there, which in essence is a dirty bomb test. And yes, indeed, what happened was plutonium was dispersed over 895 acres, just a little bit north of Groom Lake at Area 51. And as we know, plutonium has a half-life of 24,000 years. So there was Richard Mingus keeping watch over this mock dirty bomb test. That land was contaminated, and it is also still contaminated today, despite ongoing efforts to clean it up.
How is Area 51 used today, Annie Jacobsen?
Well, everything that I write about today that's going on there is speculative because it's all still classified top secret. What is assumed and known among sources who used to be there is that the Predator and the Reaper drones have been flown out there. The government is testing new espionage platforms. And what I found to be fascinating, if you look at the whole history of Area 51, it began with, as I said earlier, you know, the Atomic Energy Commission and the Department of Defense on one side of the fence practicing how to have a war, and the CIA on the other side of the fence working as eyes in the sky, it's called, when you are able to spy on the enemy so as to prevent a war. But now these two ideas have merged in drones because the espionage vehicles now have weapons on them. They have missiles. And so you have these two services coming together. And of course, it's very interesting that the former director of the CIA is now over at the Department of Defense.
Annie Jacobsen, we're going to have to leave it there, but we're going to continue after the broadcast at democracynow.org. People can check.
And she didn't even scratch the surface there, but I wanted to give you just enough, and it's absolutely fascinating. I absolutely believe her. Yes, there are craft that we are in possession of. You see, the problem is that there's two ideas. There's this idea that the best tech that we have available is essentially our cell phone, and that the best tech available is available for the average consumer, and that the government is light ages behind in tech. And so when it comes to aircraft, when it comes to weaponry, that they're really behind, and that the average American consumer has the latest cutting edge tech when it comes to VR, virtual reality, when it comes to holograms, when it comes to communication. But that is quite naive of us to think that the American consumer is on the cutting edge of tech. In fact, I've heard some people speculate that we could be as far as 40, 50 years behind the kind of cutting edge technology that our government is in possession of. And think about it for a quick second. Why is it just recently that Tesla was the pioneer in electric vehicles when we've had this tech for decades, but when those who tried to roll out this tech would find themselves swimming with the fishes or buried 6 feet under when they tried to roll it out. I've always found it interesting why and how Elon has been able to do this when nobody else has been able to do what he has been able to do. So it is hilarious to think that most of us still put gas in our cars. Think of how primitive that is when our government is in possession of flying vehicles that travel using nuclear technology. We should be putting our vehicles should be self-sustaining and running off plasma energy. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. So we are basically in the Stone Ages when it comes to the kind of tech that we think is so incredibly. Think about this for a second. It has been just this last year that the average consumer has access to AI, artificial intelligence. Okay. This tech is not new. It's just new to us. So what are we seeing? We are seeing a narrative, okay? And this narrative began during COVID-19, okay? It was during the COVID relief bill, okay, that it was added to the relief bill that Congress would be given, I think it was 60 or 90 days to do full disclosure on everything that they had on UFOs. And thank you, Congress, for being so transparent and giving us everything that you have on UFOs. You were so incredibly transparent with the American public, and to think that you only did this because you had to. No, the government did this because they chose to. Why? Because this is a redirect. Okay, this is a form of a false flag. This is a narrative that can be used to distract. Okay, and this could be a narrative that is used to pull people to. Well, let me just say that there's two schools of thought when it comes to the why behind this. The first school of thought is that essentially the leaking of this material from our government, whereas it's not being leaked from the Chinese government or the Russian government, is because this is one way for us to tell our enemies the kind of tech that we are in possession of. However, when you read Annie Jacobsen, okay, and you read her study of Area 51, you will see that it was back in the late 40s and early 50s that they are already in possession of drone technology and the ability to fly humans in drones. Back in the 40s. Okay, so that's the first theory, okay? And this is what I have typically subscribed to, that this isn't just a narrative to give information to the American public, but that this is a way for us to put on display to our enemies the kind of tech that we are in possession of. There is, however, another theory, and this is the Project Bluebeam theory. And this theory is that this is the beginning of an unfolding of a pseudo-supernatural narrative whereby we can begin to integrate within the American psyche the possibility of life on other planets and non-harmful beings, okay, that will eventually integrate and assimilate into our culture, okay? Now, will this happen? No. Those that subscribe to the understanding of Project Bluebeam believe that this project is exactly that, a projection, okay? Special effects and holograms in order to create one global religion, in order to create one global theology that will correlate with a global economy, that will correlate with a global currency, a global crypto type currency, okay? And this also goes hand in hand with what would be the anti-life spirit that we see at work in the days of Noah, this idea that humanity is essentially harmful and that the fewer of us there are, the better that the earth will be. This theory begins to correlate with what we began to see in Maui, with the unexplainable failure of the disaster relief that took place there in Lahaina, that those that had relief and aid were not permitted to access the area, that those who could have put out the fires chose not to for apparently spiritual reasons, and that now Lahaina could be the perfect location to roll out the kind of technology, the kind of ecosystem that could fuse incredibly well with a global economy and this global mindset. What's the truth? I'm not sure. And this is where I'm just rolling out to you these two variant theories. One being that this is simply a military display using our media to show our enemies what we're in possession of. And the latter, Project Bluebeam, the idea of the beginning of a puppet show of sorts, where our own government uses special effects and holograms and projections to create a fear-based structure by which the masses will receive the opioid of fear, which we saw really does work. We saw that in 2020, in 2021, and it works just as much in the church as it does in the world, okay? And we are seeing this even with the reactions of this UFO alien footage that is hitting the internet, that many Christians are questioning their faith, thinking that if there is life on other planets, then surely we have to question everything that we know. And I will spare you the countless clips that I have from the World Wide Web of influencers saying exactly that. If this is true, if there is life on other planets, if there are parallel dimensions and parallel universes, then certainly we have to rethink everything that we ever thought we knew about religion. Now, let me just say this, that when it comes to religion, when it comes to a global religion, we do see that the Catholic Church and the Vatican have a theology for aliens and UFOs, whereby aliens are not seen as the bad people, okay? But that these are simply biological entities that live in a parallel realm or a parallel universe that most likely do not exist to harm us, but exist to help us. Now, with this understanding and theology within the higher-ups within the Vatican, and I'm going to actually go into some depth here on this, then you can certainly see how the Catholic Church would be set up to partner with a global religion and a globalist mindset if they have bought into this alien narrative, which they certainly have. And I decided to go light tonight on the Catholicism alien integration. But I do want us to look at what is referred to as the miracle of Fatima. Now, this took place in 1917. This is when 3 shepherd children claimed to receive messages from what Catholic theologians believed was the Virgin Mary. Now, during this time, these 3 shepherd children are having regular transmissions, from the Virgin Mary, and people began to gather from all over the world to come to this sheep pasture, and to engage these children that were receiving these transmissions. And the picture that I just put up here, you will see the gathering of over 70,000 people in this sheep pasture. Now, the Catholic Church, for a long time, wouldn't actually acknowledge what was happening to these children, And the children, during this time, were receiving telepathic messages from Fatima, And now, these 70,000 people, when they came to the sheep pasture to engage, and by the way, this is a lot of eyewitnesses, when they came to engage these children, they saw what was claimed to have been a silver disc spinning in the sheep pasture. So here you have a silver disc, and you have eyewitnesses that are seeing this silver disc. The children are receiving telepathic messages from Fatima. Again, this is called the miracle of Fatima, as hallowed by the Catholic Church. Again, going back to 1917, 70,000 people, 3 children being engaged by a supernatural entity that's being said is holy, getting messages, and this is what the children are hearing. This is the message that they received. You are not alone. You're not alone on this planet. We are here. We've been here for thousands of years. We observe you. Please prepare mankind for when we return again. And this story, it all went to the Vatican, and the kids were given 3 messages from the Pope. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Yeah, the kids were actually given 3 messages from Fatima to give to the Pope. And the first 2 messages were actually released by the Vatican. And the third message, which actually talks about extraterrestrial life. So again, these children are receiving a communication from this being that says, we are here. We've been here for thousands of years. We observe you. Given 3 messages to give to the Pope. The first 2 were disclosed and went public. And the third message, the Pope would not disclose. So interesting. Now, when it comes to this, what is this? Is this alien tech? I mean, is this government? Is this government tech? No, guys, this is 1917 and children receiving a telepathic message, which is where we shift tonight, saying that, yes, there really are 2 realms. There really are gates. There are access points. There are portals. And there's also a platform of narratives known as Hollywood that has given to us American theology concerning these beings and this idea that these beings are from outer space. The problem with that is those who actually study outer space, physicists, going back to Elon Musk completely denies the possibility of there being aliens based off his observations of outer space. If you go through those who are deeply respected physicists and those who are studying the stars and planets, there is absolutely zero proof, based off what we have seen, zero evidence of alien life or even the possibility of alien life on other planets. And yet, there are these alien-like beings. And when described, they always seem to look the same way. So, yes, there are alien-like beings. And yes, they look like the Greys. Yes, they look like how Hollywood represents them. But are they from outer space? No. Are they from another realm? Yes. Can they access our realm? Yes, if they have a portal. And I'm not talking about a tear in the atmosphere. I'm not talking about I'm trying to remember the huge particle collider, the 666 particle collider that everybody's always hitting me up on. I'm not talking about that. Okay, this Babel attempt to open up a realm. These beings do not access our realm through celestial tears in the atmosphere or by simply getting struck by gamma rays, as Marvel tells us. The movies always tell us that there are these abstract portals, these wardrobes, these telephone booths. Every movie is essentially about a portal, an access point into adventure. That's every children's book. Okay, it's Alice in Wonderland. It's The Matrix. It's Bill and Ted that literally get into a portal and go back in time, and it's a telephone booth. It's every children's story. It's a portal. However, in real life, portals do exist, but they are people, and these beings want to access our realm and our DNA through people. Now, before all the movies, before there was ever E.T., okay, there was quite the character known as Aleister Crowley. And Aleister Crowley is starting to get very, very popular today because of platforms like TikTok and this resurgence of, I don't know if you're a part of our mailing list, put a 2 up in the comments if you're on our mailing list and you've been part of the Enchanted Church series, where we've been talking about the revival of witchcraft that has arrived on the shores of the American evangelical church. Now, when it comes to modern day witch talk, TikTok, sex magic has become a very popular topic. This is a trending topic amongst millennials and Gen Z. Aleister Crowley was kind of the origin theologian when it comes to this idea of sex magic and the kind of possibilities that can be manifested in this realm at the moment of climax. There is a possibility to open a portal. Aleister Crowley is correct in that, okay, as the two become one flesh, there's the possibility of conception. Okay, conception is exactly that. It is a spirit sent from eternity past, okay, exploding. The light can actually be captured. You can go onto YouTube and see the explosion, a literal explosion of light that takes place, okay, where all of a sudden from this light is going to come forth a womb, 9 months of creation, where DNA is going to begin, the programming of DNA is going to begin to go into play. All of a sudden, various coding of DNA that only has one particular function to create nubs that will become fingers. This whole thing is absolutely radically supernatural, and it all begins, yes, with a big boom, an explosion of light, the moment of conception when the sperm comes into contact with the egg. Behold, an actual portal, an eternal spirit being wrapped in the DNA of the flesh of and encoding the DNA of the mother and the father. Okay, so Aleister Crowley, okay, being a demonist, okay, being a sorcerer of his generation began engaging with extra dimensional entities, okay, in a deep place of ritualistic meditation, okay, and it was in 1917 where he actually came into contact during a ritual, and he came into contact with a demonic entity that he named Lamb. That is Lam. And this demonic entity, okay, Crowley would end up drawing a sketch of this being. And this being would have a very large egg-like head with a very skinny body. And this being would begin giving him transmissions, and he began receiving information from another realm from this being that he named Lamb. And now remember that when he draws this sketch, there have been no Hollywood movies, okay? This is before Roswell. This is before the hysteria of aliens and UFOs in America, okay? So I have a picture of the sketch here that Crowley did of Lamb, and it's placed side by side with what we know or what we call a gray. And this is fast. And the grays are the stereotypical way that aliens are portrayed on TV and in the movies. Look at this. You see Crowley's sketch of the extraterrestrial demonic principality entity that he was engaging with and receiving communications from. And on the right, you can see Hollywood's portrayal of how we typically view and see aliens. Point being is this. There are alien-like demonic entities that have been engaged in other realms. I even think about Spielberg, who claimed to have had a experience with, I'm talking about Steven Spielberg, who had an experience with a being from another realm that took place, this encounter took place prior to the making of E.T., which was this story of a boy who becomes friends with an alien. This is where I had people get up and leave the meeting that I did on this very topic. E.T. cannot be your friend. And do you like how my can just disappeared? Very, very alien-like. E.T. cannot be your friend. E.T. does not want to be your friend. E.T. wants to access us. He wants to access our children. E.T. has some information. E.T. is trying to phone. E.T. is attempting to access a generation. I'm not talking about government drones. I'm talking about beings from another dimension. When it comes to abductions are real, and they can be stopped. I have had several conversations with people who had near abduction encounters. In fact, I'm going to share an encounter that I had with one of these beings. Actually, there was two of them that I had an encounter, and it was during my preparation for the content that I'm giving to you tonight. When I began this study 2 years ago, let me show you reports that have come in from people near abduction encounters and how they were stopped. Here's one. I've had these abduction attempts since age 5. I'm now 64. They seem to have stopped. Okay, the visitations seem to have stopped. Whenever I would get so scared, what would I do? I would say the Lord's Prayer and it would stop. I've been having aliens engaging me since I was 5 years old. But coincidentally, isn't this strange? Whenever I would say the Lord's Prayer, the abduction would stop. They would take off. They would disappear, float away. I also get abducted since I was 4 years old. I am now 23. They manipulated me all my life since one night I woke up and saw 4 of them around my bed. This is interesting. I'm going to tell you about this encounter that I had where I had 2, and again, they were at my bed. And so you begin to see the theme here that begins to take place. They were around my bed. I panicked and I shouted, "Jesus Christ, please help me," in German. They started to scream and run right through the wall. And as they ran away, I was like, something puts me back into a sleep position, and my cover fell above me. Since that day, I always sent them away in the name of our Savior. They don't come to me anymore. I'll pray for you, sister. Here's another one. When I was living in Texas, I had an abduction that was stopped by powerfully saying, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." I was asleep. I woke up in an eerie humming like fan, motor, or vacuum. I was paralyzed. I was levitating off the bed. My eyes saw a great distance from the floor. I was alone and being sucked or pulled out the French doors. I struggled in my mind to be free. "No use," I said. "In the name of Jesus, let me go." I was free for a moment. I scurried to the stairs to get downstairs to my husband. In a moment, I reached the top of the stairs. I held tight to the railing with both hands as my legs lifted off and I was being pulled towards the night sky again. It was like being sucked up by a giant vacuum suction. Then I yelled, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." I was free. Are you seeing the theme here? In all 3 of these abductions, whenever people rebuked the aliens fled. Interesting. You shall rebuke the devil and he will flee. It says, my husband fell asleep while watching TV. He heard nothing. He never believed me. I knew since that day that aliens is a replacement word for demons. Ding, 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 ding. Demons flit and fly in the atmosphere. I was preparing for this study of aliens and UFOs for our church. It was one of the I don't typically talk on this sort of thing, but I was receiving requests from people in our church. I wanted to do a series on cultural hot topics and wanted to approach it from a biblical perspective. And I thought it was pretty funny. We're actually going to have some fun with it. We were actually going to begin the service. We actually did this. We began the service with the lights flashing and the intro video shorting out, the lights shorting out. And then all of a sudden we had a guy in an alien costume come out and it was kind of scary. And then I came out with a big, huge Nerf gun. And I just lit him up with my Nerf gun. It was kind of funny. And we were having fun with this. I thought, hey, this is going to be crazy. You know, this is going to be kind of fun. And in preparation for the night, I had a dream. I've never had a dream like this before. And in the dream, I was in one of these VRBO homes. I was in a home that wasn't ours. And I woke up because there was something in our room. And when I woke up, I looked up at the corner of the room and there was a rafter or a railing high up by the ceiling. And when I did, I saw what looked to be a baby dragon, probably about 6 feet long, scurrying almost like a rat along that rafter. And it just went, and it wasn't just a dragon, it was like the Chinese dragon. It had like almost this big kind of mustache thing coming off of his nose. And it was like the Chinese dragon, this ruling principality and deity ascribed to that land as part of the scattering, the divvying up of nations that we see at Babel in Deuteronomy 28. And we see that these corresponding, in Deuteronomy 28 actually refers to the sons of God, which are not good sons. This is part of the divine council, part of the chamber of the gods, if you will, and they are scattered and allocated as principalities, as ruling authorities over these variant nations, which is why when you look at various nations, you will see corresponding deities that were respected and honored by these places on the earth. Now, it's fascinating because when it comes to the dragon, the ancient, more of the Asian ancient cultures have high regard for the dragon. The dragon is a wonderful entity, deity, symbolizing fertility and prosperity. The dragon is something to be engaged with and celebrated, okay? But you go into any other culture that acknowledges the dragon. In fact, I have a new book coming out next year, and in the book, we actually get into a place in Scotland where dragons were a normal part of that culture. Coincidentally, it's also one of the first sightings of a creature that is very eerily similar to the Bigfoot. It's also where you have the Loch Ness River and the first sightings of the Loch Ness Monster. Meaning what? You actually have a location in Scotland where there is the conglomeration of various paranormal beings that are not good, and they are actually quite a threat and dangerous to, and we get into this in the book, and we actually get into one of the saints in the Catholic Church who rebukes the Loch Ness Monster. And guess what? That just like the aliens. And now you're wondering, what am I watching? We are in it tonight. This is no longer Sunday school, okay? This is no longer your seeker-sensitive church service. Just like the aliens fled when rebuked, the Loch Ness Monster rebuke. Guys, you guys are going to love this book. It's called Unapologetically Supernatural. It's being published by Destiny, and we get into the Sasquatch, right? The Bigfoot. We get into the Loch Ness Monster. We get into aliens. We get into all of this. And when it comes to this dragon that I see running in my room, and it's only about 6 to 8 feet, and I thought that's interesting. That's a Chinese dragon. I look over on the wall, and I see a star chart on the wall, and I see the yin yang in the center of the star chart, and I see all of the constellations going around, okay, which is interesting because what is that? That's the heavens, okay? It's not the heaven of heavens, and I feel bad for those that are new here tonight because we're at the deep end of the pool, and you don't have any of the setup for this that we covered in our last webinar, where we went through ancient Jewish cosmology and how the ancients viewed the composition of the earth and the interacting of realms. So when you look at the stars, that's the heavens. It's not the heaven of heavens. Okay? And this is what some would call the second heaven, where you have these principalities, powers, these things that you're not going to be able to rebuke from your prayer room because they are there legally. They have legal jurisdiction that you don't have to be affected by them. Why? Because where are you seated? With Jesus in heavenly places. That's where we have to have an understanding of the heavens and the heaven of heavens, and that's where we have to understand that our intercession doesn't take place from earth to heaven. Our intercession takes place from heaven to earth. Our intercession does not take place warring for victory. Our intercession takes place warring from victory. This is where prayer walks can be good. Prayer walks can also be detrimental and dangerous. Why? Because if we're going to have to go into a dangerous part of town, that our feet can tread there so that we can pray, but now we're actually praying while underneath the dark cloud of that principality and power, versus staying in our prayer room, believe it or not, coming into unity which, by the way, this is one of the number one reasons why a lot of our prayer meetings are powerless and ineffective, because we have 15 people all with our own diverse agendas. So there's not unity. There's not the two or more dynamic. Therefore, God cannot actually manifest and reveal his glory plan, by which should be the blueprint by which we pray. But instead, we are praying according to our own will, way, from the soul realm, thinking we're praying prophetically, or what we're actually doing is we're just praying against the headlines that we got off of Newsmax. It won't do anything, okay? It's always good to pray, but it'll be powerless and ineffective because we're praying from a place of being triggered, warring for victory, instead of operating from the heavens and praying from victory. I'm laying there in my bed after this being runs by, and I look down at my feet after looking at this star chart. So again, it's symbolic of a principality and power running by, and the dragon tells me, signifying principality and power over a nation. Then I look at the end of my bed, and I see two aliens approaching the foot of my bed. They are looking at me, and they have their finger out, and they are going to touch me. All I can say is it was the most terrifying feeling. I was so scared. This isn't like 20 years ago. This is like recent. You guys see me like, oh, sometimes people introduce me, oh, Darren, he's fearless. No, I was terrified. I was freaked out as these two high-level principalities that looked just like that lamb being, just like how Hollywood is telling us about the grays. And I screamed, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you, in the name of Jesus. And it was a fight. It wasn't an easy thing. It wasn't just in the name of Jesus. This was a fight to even get it out. The fear was so crippling that when I immediately, after struggling to get it out, I got it out, and I think I must have said it 2 or 3, and then I came up and out of this encounter, and I was scared, and at that point, all of a sudden I recognized this is not some sort of flippant. This is all right. So this is where my theology has changed a bit on this. I used to say, and I still say this, but it's okay. I used to say that UFOs are governmental drone things, and aliens are demons. But these are not demons. I've seen demons. I rebuke demons. You rebuke a demon. As soon as it hardly takes anything. You're like, you hardly have to do anything, and a demon goes. Like you just say the name of Jesus, demons just boom come. You've heard my stories on that, right? These weren't demons. These were next level. This was a higher ranking entity that communicated authority. I think that most demons are not very meticulous or strategic. I think that most demons they're trapped in a realm. They function underneath a government of chaos, anxiety, anarchy. Demons function in a government of lawlessness, chaos, selfishness. These things would eat each other. There's no sense of honor, or I think a lot of times in the church we think that demons sit around a round table and they're quite meticulous. No, we're going to do this and that. Demons tend to just be animal-like in how they function and behave. But principalities and powers and these cosmic princes and this stuff that we just know so little about. I'm talking about myself. This is where it is strategic. This is where it is orderly. This is where it is governmental. This is where John Paul Jackson was absolutely correct in his warning to the church to not use intercession as a willy-nilly. And I've been to, man, thank God for the grace of God. God is so faithful because, man, you have intercessors and believers that put themselves in some radically vulnerable positions because they go wielding an authority that they really don't have, picking on an entity that they don't know, that they don't understand, and that God never called for them to pick on. And that's where John Paul Jackson's Casualties of War, same thing happened to me when I was just young, dumb, and ignorant. I was a worship leader. I took something on. It was a Halloween night. We're doing a worship event. I took something on, and I will tell you what, I got my butt kicked, and I got humbled, man. Man, I sure did. And I hope I never did that again. I mean, I just remember getting after it. And it's not that we live in fear, but man, we need to intercede as sons and daughters of the Most High God according to His blueprint, according to His will, and not according to our triggered soul. So, so I used to teach aliens were merely demons. And I believe that these true beings that are engaging people right now, and they are. And you can listen to influencers in the culture right now. Joe Rogan, case in point, the number one podcast in our nation right now is the Joe Rogan podcast experience. And he, while on a hallucinogenic DMT trip, was engaged by an alien entity, and it communicated to him. And we've got that transcript in our book that's coming out this next year. And in these DMT experiences that only last, from what I understand, around 7 to 8 minutes, and yet when you're in it, it feels like you're in an encounter for days. It literally is a counterfeit Narnia. It's literally, they say it's like being slingshot. It's like being slingshot at warp speed into another realm. And you can have 3 people in the same room do a DMT trip and go into another realm and go into it together, engage with these demonic, high-level demonic beings, have conversations together, receive intelligence, come back and compare their encounters, and they realize they were all in the encounter together. Sometimes these beings are called the DMT elves, okay? But when you hear how these things are described, they look exactly like Aleister Crowley's lamb. And this behavior, even just recently, a huge promotion of ibogaine and ayahuasca as a treatment agency by which to wean people off of hard drugs and opioids and Oxycontin and all of that. That this is being celebrated as a way to be weaned off of hard drugs, because one of the familiar encounters that you go on with ibogaine as being overseen by a shaman who has to actually engage the plant and get permission from the plant first before serving it, is that the encounter takes the person back into the womb, and they experience life in the womb. They experience their birth. They experience their entire life. They experience why they ever used drugs, alcohol in the first place. They get their why answered. They experience their death. They experience the afterlife. And then they come out of this experience and they have understanding. And 9 times out of 10, they never go back to these hard drugs. And in the medical community, it's being perceived as just simply a tweaking of the psyche. The problem is the people that are having these encounters are engaging beings in another realm, and they all know and admit this is not simply a tweaking of the psyche. This is encountering another dimension that leaves you changed. And is that changing, is that psychological transfiguration only being contained within the soul, or is there more actually taking place? There's a great battle taking place right now on the earth, and it's a battle for humanity. It's a battle for the next generation. And this conversation is only going to intensify, and it is so important that we get this out, that the church has become radically ignorant, engaging. We will be doing, let me say this, because I'm going to wrap this up. We will be doing a webinar on the Kundalini breathing techniques and the Kundalini spirit. And the reason why we're doing this is that also frontline influencers, including Joe Rogan, are promoting Kundalini yoga as a way to access the same psychedelic trances that are induced by DMT, but to do it without ingesting any substance, that merely by simply breathing, you can access the same realm, the same dimensions, and the same entities. So we will be doing a webinar on this. However, this will be for our students in Portals University. So let me hit on that real quickly, because I know I've been getting a lot of emails and questions about what this is. It starts September 11th. The group is already open, but the content doesn't start till September 11th. So if you get in there now, you're just going to get a whole bunch of bonuses. And let me show you what those are real quick. These are not your grandma's portal. The dark side is trending. Night School. Night School is all about how both the realm of darkness and the realm of heaven engage us at night, that the night hours for our training so that we can live out during the day what we received at night. Portals in the Bible for those of you wrestling with terminology. It's all throughout the Bible. Different types of portals. You are the portal. Whole thing on vortexes, hotspots, stream catchers. Can Mandelas be good? Christians using demonic portals. That's very important. That's a video. These are all videos. How do Christians meditate? Okay, there's a proper way for us to meditate. We should be meditating, but not like they're doing in India. You got Christians, believers, good people, sitting at home in a lotus pose. Oh, man. Portal dynamics, you get access. That is the 4 teachings that we did for Sid Roth that talk about heavenly portals and demonic portals, how to open them and how to close them. And so that's what you get access to. But beginning on September 11th, that's where it really begins. And so people are getting in there right now. We've got a Facebook community that is about to begin, and that is where we're going to start. This Kundalini yoga is different from the traditional Western yuppie mamas stretching while trying not to fart. This is Eastern mysticism that immediately opens you up to be possessed by a demon just by doing it once. Immediately possessed. And I'm going to be showing you the videos of this. This will be next Wednesday night, so a week from tonight, but it will be on our Portals University Facebook page. Yes, for everybody that was in Portals University last year, yes, you get to be a part of all of this. You'll be getting the link. And so here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to learn more. You're going to want to go to Portals University, and that link is right in the comments. We're going to wrap this up, and this is what I want you to do. I don't want you to wait till tomorrow. I don't want you to say, hey, I'll do this next week. As soon as we're done, I want you to click on the link, portalsuniversity.com. I want you to watch the video that we have there. It's about 8 minutes. It tells you everything that we're doing. And then if that's resonating, if you're like, yeah, I am I always thought that I was weird. All of a sudden, I'm realizing I'm not weird. I'm normal, and I'm trying to make sense out of all of this in a generation that's quite ignorant of spiritual things. And after watching kind of the video and everything there, if you're ready to move forward tonight, enroll into Portals University, because we're about 2 weeks away from getting started in one of the most doable and yet intensive discipleship dynamics that you have ever experienced. And that every week for 7 months, you're going to receive systematic content that's going to help you literally step into your authority, step out of the fear that's kept you chained to 1988 or 1989. And you're literally going to begin stewarding heavenly opportunities by these windows of opportunity that the Lord has been opening to you for years. I mean, you're going to recognize that you've had portals throughout your entire life, and yet you've dismissed them. And because of that, there's been a lack of movement, and let's just be honest, a lack of favor. Transitions that you've been praying for, that the Lord has brought your way, where the door is clearly open, and yet you don't see it because you just don't have the courage to see it. And if that's you, as soon as we're done, I want you to go to portalsuniversity.com. I want you to watch that video. I want you to see if any of this makes sense. And if it does, I want you to enroll, get enrolled, okay? And put in an email that you check. It's not going to do you any good if you put in an email don't put in your junk email, okay? Put in an email that you actually check. Get your credit card in there, okay? Get it all set up. Start watching, man, all the bonus stuff that we have in there. There's so much in there. You got to watch the Battle for the Earth when you get in there. That's a school that I did where we get into shapeshifters and we get into what's engaging our children right now. Go in there, start watching the bonus stuff, and then get on to our webinar next Wednesday night. It's live, and I'll be doing questions. I'll be doing Q&A, and I'm going to be showing some videos. Some of it's going to be pretty graphic. You're going to be getting exposed to what is happening right now. And I would love to say it's just in the culture. It's not. It's in the church. You have friends that are doing this. And the second you are awakened to what's taking place in the spirit, some of you think that the spirit realm is so far out, and it's not. It is right here. You have demons and angels engaging you every single day. And you have a heavenly Father saying, come on, let's do this. Let's go, let's go, let's go. But the church just has not been trained in the things of the Spirit and how the things of the Spirit fuse with our daily lives. So get in there. And then if for some reason you get in there and you get into next week and we get started and you're just like, yeah, I'm not into this. That's totally cool. You can opt out at any time. But when you go through this, you will be a part of our Portals family. And this is what I love about our Portals family. So many people on the broadcast tonight were a part of our Portals family last year. And this is the real fruit of what we did in Portals University. People actually finished it. And that's because this is for busy people. This is for people that live on their phones and everything you can do right on your phone. And I'm going to give you some tips as far as to how to actually get through it, okay? And these videos are not, I signed up for a thing once, a prophetic thing, and the videos were like an hour and a half long. And I was like, I just don't have time. I got into like 15 minutes. These videos are like 15 to 20 minutes, okay? And you watch 2 of them a week, which means you just need to find one day every week. And you need to be religious about it. It needs to be like a period of time every Monday morning from 6:30 to 7 a.m. Is your spiritual engagement, is your destiny worth 30 minutes, sometimes 35 minutes a week? Could you commit to that? I think that you could. And again, this isn't for everybody. Not everybody needs this. But there's a lot of people that do. And when these portals open, the fruit of it is going to be, some of you are going to be getting new jobs. Some of you are going to be, you're going to start dating. And none of this is magic, I promise you. But this is about a real God with a real blueprint for your life. And you don't have to go another year saying, God, I'm waiting on you. God, I'm waiting. You're not waiting on God. God is waiting on you. It's not a lack of data. It's a lack of teaching and how to discern and to steward the data. And that's where this really has to. So I'm going to wrap this up and know this. There's a very real battle. This stuff is real, at least some of it. And the stuff that is real, it is very real. And the stuff that your children, my kids are going to do a mentoring session, a Portals University mentoring, and I'm going to get your kids on. And that's something that's new this year. We're going to be doing some stuff with the family. We're going to be talking about Portals University family for children that'll be coming out. And but we have to have understanding. We can no longer be ignorant concerning spiritual matters. So again, don't wait till tomorrow. I know how this is. Tomorrow's going to have all some good things and some nonsense and whatever. Tomorrow's going to take care of itself. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to hit the finish button, and then I want you to go right now to portalsuniversity.com. Check it out. Check out the little video that we have there. And if it's right for you, I want you to enroll, and let's do this. Let's get ready. This will be going 2023 into 2024. This can be an election year. There's going to be some crazy stuff. And I can tell you, this paranormal agenda, it is not going away. You're going to have to know who you are. Your children are going to have to know who they are. Because if we do not know who we are not going to know where we're going. And hasn't that been the case? So let me pray for you. Father, I thank you for the spirit of hope, the spirit of courage, the spirit of a sound mind. I thank you, Lord, for the gospel, the good news that says that we don't have to fight for victory. We get to fight from victory. And I thank you for the testimonies that we saw tonight from those who rebuked the aliens and they fled. I thank you for my testimony. I rebuked those evil things. And finally they fled. And Father, I pray tonight that this would be a season of awakening for each and every person that's watching this, that they'd be awakened to their authority, that they would no longer run from evil, but that evil would run from them. In Jesus' name, amen. I love you guys. I hope to see you in Portals University. You were born for this day, a spirit being with a body, with a soul, knit together in the generational encoding of your ancestral bloodline, yet redeemed in the blood of the Lamb. Eternity has been embedded in your heart. You know there's more. Destiny beckons you, silently, like a foreign language you struggle to comprehend. Then there's the resistance, the betrayals, the disappointments, the grief, the control, and the system. Yet, despite it all, you can sense a glimmer of hope, a subtle shifting, a spiritual season coming to an end, and something new beginning to sprout from the soil of your heart. A faint doorway, an access point, a threshold. Are you still listening? Am I talking to you? Here's the good news. You don't have to wait for something to happen in the spirit. There is an open portal of opportunity that awaits you. But you will have to do the work to discern, engage, and take dominion of your garden in order to bring it into His. It is not a question of God's will for you to have abundant life. It is a question of if it is your will to bring your life into alignment with His. The portals are open. His answer is yes. What's yours? My name is Darren Stott, pastor, author, podcaster, and founder of Supernaturalist Ministries. I'm an example of redemption and transformation. He's done it for me and thousands of others that we've worked with. I would like to invite you to be a part of a brand new 7-month Supernatural Academy that we are calling Portals University, an online, mobile-friendly school that will work on your desktop, iPad, and yep, your cell phone. 7 months, 7 modules, 7 live coaching sessions, activations, and prayer sessions. Access it from anywhere and whenever it works best for you. Our curriculum includes discerning divine opportunities, how to open heavenly portals, 9 ways to prepare for unprecedented favor, how to partner with God, the law of commanded blessing, the secret to sustaining an open portal, and how to identify rock portals. To get started, click the link, set up your payment and profile. Use an email that you actually check, because we'll be sending you emails and reminders. Get started with the introductory course and get ready, because September 26th, we begin moving forward. This is a limited time opportunity and not necessarily for everybody, but if it's for you, if God is speaking to you, enroll today, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. We'll see you in Portals University.
Portals University, it was just wonderful because I was in the cycle of just being stuck with some things, and unless somebody just kind of takes you by the hand to just unpack it, sometimes you just never get there. And so it's just such an honor that, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you did this.
So the Portals University class has been so helpful to help me be willing to dream for bigger things than what I have. Because I've been through business where it's imploded, where it's been feeling like I'm just making ends meet. I'm really appreciating identifying defeater beliefs and then receiving from God what he's made me to do, and then dreaming with him. And it's also helped me to have practical things like how to connect with people and how to change my physical space, how to clean out my clutter from previous season when I'm making a transition. And that is producing energy that is then helping with momentum.
So for most of my life, I've had a sense that God created me for something that's beyond just my day-to-day survival or existence, something that's rooted in purpose, yet I've struggled with clarity, direction, and what I'll call brain clutter, which has kept me from fully engaging in his plan. However, through Portals University, I've learned that the direction I've been seeking is already there. And God used Pastor Darren to show me that my entire life has been preparing me for it. As a result, I'm being set free from the hamster wheel of constantly wondering, what is my purpose? What is my call? And which direction do I run in? Self-defeating false beliefs of work harder to receive favor were broken as Pastor Darren taught on identifying negative patterns and religiously protecting rest, which I still need to get better at, if I'm being totally honest. But now I'm confident that I'm pursuing the right direction because I can trust that God has called me, shaped me, equipped me, and is currently positioning me. But it's up to me to carve out a space where I can identify and step into his positioning. And that's actually a pretty empowering thought. So now I'm working to clear obstacles that are potential stumbling blocks, launch several projects that I've put on the shelf for years out of uncertainty or insecurity, and build the brand that God has designed for me to carry out his purpose and my calling. So if you need help with clearing the noise, clarifying the call, and identifying God's opportunities and direction, I highly recommend Portals University.
Hey guys.